Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Dr. Kerri Vanderbom with Team USA. Hi, Kerri.
Hi.
So we were just talking before I turned the camera on, and you were telling me about your degree, Dr. Kerri Vanderbom, and you don't fix broken bones and stuff.
No, PhD, not an MD.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's your degree in? You're a PhD.
So my degree is actually in kinesiology with an emphasis on adapted physical activity, so being able to do sports and different recreation and physical activity for people with disabilities.
And you're working where? You're living in Birmingham.
Yeah, so I am in the physical therapy department at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, where my primary role is research, and so that's what I do.
What do you research?
So it's a little bit of a departure from kinesiology, but it's still related to adapted activity. And so my work is centered around translating different evidence-based practices into reality. And the main part of what I do is really about trying to make different health promotion programs in communities inclusive and accessible for people with disabilities. So like physical activity programs or nutrition programs, and they might be conducted in different settings or sectors, so the school, the community at large, healthcare settings, workplace settings, that sort of thing.
And we were also chatting about you're back in school, you have a PhD, but you're taking another program.
Yeah, so I'm in it's a National Institutes of Health program, and to help underserved researchers, so people with disabilities, qualifies as underserved. And so I had the privilege of being a part of this program called PRIDE. I can't exactly remember what it stands for, but I was in a course at UCSF. And they basically help mentor young junior faculty and researchers. And through this program, I was able to sign up for a course in implementation science. And so 2 more classes, and then I'll have a certificate in this area of study.
And what will you do with that certificate? What's that?
It really just helps, I think, build my skills in the area of doing evaluation on these communities and different methods that can be used in these communities to test out different strategies about inclusion and accessibility for people with disabilities.
So you might, a little town like Los Banos maybe, how would that work for us?
Yeah, so ideally what we're finding is if there's some sort of coalition or group of people that's passionate about improving health in their community, finding them, or maybe getting a group of people together. It can happen either way, where they maybe need to start building that collaboration and kind of that team, or they might already have an existing one. And then what we aim to do is make that coalition inclusive of people with disabilities, right? Because we have the saying, nothing about us without us. And so oftentimes we find that communities, it's not that they purposely exclude people with disabilities, but it's just an afterthought. Oftentimes because they find someone or meet someone with a disability and realize that they can't access certain things, or maybe they have a friend or family member who becomes disabled and realize they can't access those things. And so having that coalition, making sure it's inclusive of people with disabilities, so that whatever community work is being done has a perspective of a person with a disability, and ideally multiple, right? Because it's not just about physical disabilities, but there's sensory and intellectual, developmental disabilities. There's behavioral health issues that sometimes we need to take into consideration and make sure that it's inclusive and accessible for all.
Wow. You sound like a PhD, which you are, but you sound like that too.
Well, that's good.
So that's pretty amazing that you're including not just people with physical disabilities, but a variety of challenges. And I think that a lot of people just really don't think about that. I've had my own health issues recently and have learned there are just so many things that I didn't understand and was missing. There were eye-openers.
Right, and most of the time it doesn't even have to be an expensive fix. It's just having people be very conscious of it and making those efforts, and improving services if you can't improve the built environment straight away. So that sort of thing I think is really important for people to understand.
You said a quote a minute or so ago. Nothing without us. What was that?
Nothing without us, or nothing about us without us.
Nothing. What is that? Say that again. Break it down.
So, I mean, basically that came out of the disability rights movement, and so it's not something I said, but basically that you can't make decisions about people with disabilities without including them.
Okay, that makes sense. That
and
makes
so
sense.
even this work of I mean, you're going to be more successful regardless of if you're working with people with disabilities or I don't know, anyone. If you're trying to include that group of people in something, then that's where you need to make sure they're a part of the decisions being made. And you're going to be more successful and have better outcomes and most likely more sustainable outcomes.
Because of the perspective of an end user, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because a lot of times we hear from communities like, oh, well, we made X, Y, and Z accessible, but still no one with a disability comes to use it. And then we have to stop and look why. It's not because they're not out there and they don't want to come to your facility, but is it because, you built a ramp, but maybe the bathroom isn't accessible, or maybe your staff doesn't, if it's a fitness gym, for example, your staff doesn't know how to help someone with a disability. They can get in the building, but if they don't feel comfortable and the services aren't inclusive and accessible, then you might not have a successful program.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for all that explanation. I'm not ready yet. I got you a little jiggity. I hope that didn't hurt. And so anything you want to say about this upcoming competition? How long have you been skiing?
I started competing in 1995 with Roy Sandys, my main mentor and coach. But I was on a hiatus for the PhD program from about, my last Worlds was 2005, and then hadn't been to a nationals in a really long time until this past year. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to be back and be a part of another team. And it might be the last hurrah, but so I want to make it the best and hopefully do well.
Hey, who is that guy? The guy just cruised around behind you. You know him?
It's a sponsor.
A sponsor?
My husband.
And where'd you meet him?
Literally, we met in Belgium, but that was just like hi, however, whatever. And then met him when I was studying in Australia for a year.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm not going to keep you any longer. Thank you so much, and
Thank you.
Go Team USA.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.
Thanks.